Well, thank you very much, Nick. That's very kind of you. And well, I was very privileged to be asked to speak about Jock. And I hope that there's something in this. I should say, the fire exits are that way. Please turn off your mobile phone. Well, first of all, I suppose I should say who I am. I was a foundationer at the school in 1956-1967, so I arrived just after Jock became 1953, and then went from the junior school to the senior school, Watson House, and went through to the final year of Barry Blake, when maybe I was part of the group who contributed to his sudden retirement, having earmarked me to be house captain, and so the long-suffering Jock inherited Watson House and also me. So I belong to the early days of Jock's career. 2 years. So if we divide Jock's career into three, the 36 years he was there, I'm really part of that first third of it, and just as I pull out, he's becoming housemaster, and then he's becoming deputy, head, and so on, second master. Well, it goes without saying that Jock, of course, been an absolute tower of strength to the school. And I want to talk about what he did in the school, but I also want to take this opportunity to do a little bit of This Is Your Life about Jock. And because this was a surprise, I haven't been able to check any of my facts with him, so I'm going to stand up and tell me that I'm completely wrong about various things. However, thanks to Peter Atkins, I can confirm that Jock was born on the 10th of April 1929, and went off to prep school at Hillborough, near Rugby, where his home was near Rugby until about 1950. After prep school near Rugby, from which he was evacuated to a Northumbrian castle, as he tells us on... Which one was it, John?
It's called Featherstone Castle, now Hortwhistle.
Featherstone Castle near Hortwhistle, thank you very much. And Jock entered Walpole House at Stowe in 1942 under the housemaster Harold Kindy. Well, when one's writing about someone else's life, it's very interesting to try and establish what the influences on their life were. And certainly I think I've managed to tease out that J.F. Roxburgh, the founding head of Stowe, founded Stowe in 1923, when he came there at age 35. He was obviously well established by the time Jock arrived in the early 1940s. And the kind of things that Roxburgh is famous for saying are interesting. He described old Stoics as the ruling class with the cobwebs brushed off, was one way he described it. That category. Men who he said would be acceptable at a dance and invaluable in a shipwreck. Well, I think absolutely. But another thing that Roxburgh encouraged was individual sports. He was quite interested in team games, quite an enthusiastic hockey player as Jock is. But he encouraged golf and tennis, and it may be, and I'm guessing here, that it was the encouragement in tennis that led Jock down this important road, this part of his life in tennis. And as we know, still at his 80th, in his 81st year, he's still playing tennis, and that's wonderful. Yeah. He played tennis for Stowe. He played in the first 6 tennis, and he was a prefect and a house captain. How about that? Quite what he'd make of Walpole House now, I've no idea. It turned into a girls' house. Full supporter as a housemaster. He had an Arsenal supporter. Doesn't like people, Chelsea supporter, doesn't like what Jock made all that. He was also a prize winner at school, winning the the Henshaw Prize for English in his final year in 1947. This prepared him for 2 years of national service, which he likes to brush aside. He characterises it as undistinguished apart from guarding the Tower of London, which is essential to national interest to me, and playing in the Army Tennis Championship. After national service and in the footsteps of Roxburgh, Jock went off to Trinity College, Cambridge, where his career is slightly obscure. When they got out his file at Stowe, they said, well, we're quite unable to tell you what Jock Asbury-Bailey studied at Cambridge, but we think, they said it was modern languages, although we're not sure whether he studied any of those. That's what he put himself down for. He's shaking his head. But he did do history and geography, which I think we've all benefited one way or another from Jock teaching us. Certainly I have from his geography. Which brings him, at the end of Cambridge in 1953, to St Edmund for the next 36 years. So all this previous experience set the scene for life to come. The Stowe ethos of bringing out the best in individual boys, especially less academic ones, and as we know, there are plenty of those at St Edmund. Finished with the army, and of course there were other people at St Edmunds who were keen to step into army boots. Clement Maloney, for example, the famous maths master and part-time bursar, known to the boys as Molo, the mathematician with a hole. And you remember that the famous story of Maloney teaching maths, where they pinned the blackboard duster to the blackboard in Form 4, and he had this habit of coming in and throwing the blackboard duster across the room, where of course he pulled down the blackboard. Another person who was able to take over any responsibility for army matters is of course RSM O'Leary, to whom many people here owe their fine figures and their long lives.
Okay, my son.
Which at the stage of talk was just reminding me, was actually rather like Pilates. And of course, RSM O'Leary continued that terrible early morning swim tradition, which Jock was telling me that people who were in the school as early as 1932 were complaining about. But anyway, I've never been near a swimming pool since. A splendid picture in Jock's history of the school of that swimming pool being demolished. So in the classroom then, history and geography, and also maths. I'm not sure where the maths came from. He taught that. When Jock arrived in 1953, the core of the staff who I remember, and I apologise to talk about what I know, but all I know, the core of the staff were in place. Johann Sebastian Bruff in the music guitar, Fred off for a fag with Fred Latter, Fred who famously wrote fair on everybody's report whether or not they'd done art at all. Old Mr. Kedge, whose daughter Daphne taught me in the junior school. She taught me for 2 years, but so poor I had to stay in the junior form 2 years to learn how to read and write. Chris Spartapito was there, musician, accompanist for the wonderful dramatic production of the irrepressible Barry Blake. Barry the nanny. Nanny will perambulate. He went round cuffing boys over the head in the junior school. And then there were various pre-war people there as well. Stephen Jones, Kedge, and N.A. Taylor. People who joined Headmaster Thoresby to restart the school in 1945. And I have heard the last couple of days a splendid story about N.A. Taylor, which I must include in the story about Jock. A thing that probably could only happen at St Edmunds. A rather rather able and now extremely distinguished old boy of the school has pinned up in his downstairs lavatory a comment on his report from N.A. Taylor. It says, "This boy is not very clever. However, if he is prepared to do some work and to learn to read, he may in time achieve something." NAT. Well, I think that was the sort of report that Jock would never have written. He would never have written anything like that. Anyway, so
Who was the old boy?
He can put his hand up if he wishes. Anyway, those being co got the school going after 1945. Mr. Littlebury in the junior school shortly. Anybody remember Mr. Littlebury?
Yeah.
Oh, Mr.
Morris 1000.
Mr. Littlebury, and then shortly joined by John Cox in the junior school. So, on to Jock in this environment of old stagers and new faces. First thing I remember about him is that as a small boy, one was indeed small. And the other thing that one remembers is incredibly highly polished shoes. It must have been one thing that he carried away from the army with him, was polishing shoes. Although, again, has been pointed out to me, he did move on later on to hush puppies.
Yes, they were quiet.
The second thing about Edmund was that all-enveloping gown, billowing, no doubt a legacy of Cambridge and the ravens at the Tower of London. Then there were the wonderful mannerisms and catchphrases. All the masters at St Edmunds had mannerisms and catchphrases, but Jock's pretty good on the whole. Unfortunately, of course, there was Jock's ability for control. He was an absolute expert at hearing boys talking after lights out. And junior school boys in those days when he was a junior school master failed to realise that Jock knew every creaking floorboard in Little East and Big East. He could get to the dormitory door without a single creak in his hush puppy days. He was, of course, legendary for his ability with the slipper. And in fact, somebody at his party last week asked somebody there, "Did he beat you?" Which they managed to fend off the question. But even more important, really, than his use of the slipper was the famous shakings which he perpetrated on boys, which certainly today wouldn't pass muster with health and safety. And he also had that extraordinary omniscience of schoolmasters. When Athorne N and Baker T obtained cinema leave in 1967 to go off and watch The Dirty Dozen in town, when Jock knew there was going to be The Dirty Dozen, he gave them cinema leave. They returned in traditional ways, stinking of cigarettes and nicotine. Jock's superlative nose for such things immediately orders them to his study. Notes to me said, displaying grave and yet unsurprised disappointment.